Ready? Listen. Now the good news with the Acura is once you're inside, well, there's no real good news. Howdy guys, Nathan here with the Fast Lane Car, and I have an amazing video for you because in this video, I am going to drive back to back 3 of the best driving Japanese cars available in the United States. I have the Honda Civic Type-R, I have the Toyota Supra, and I have the Acura Nsx. And all 3 of these vehicles represent some of the best Japanese technology and performance in the United States. And I'm going to drive these cars on the Rocky Mountain roads. I'm going to tell you all about how they feel to drive, not just the numbers. And that's coming up next. The Honda Civic Type-R is a vehicle that we have driven a few times before, and all of us will basically say the same thing. It is one of the best driving front-wheel drive cars we've ever driven, especially on the track. But what about on the roads? And what about back-to-back to these other amazing vehicles? There are a couple things you need to know about the highway ride on the Civic Type-R. For one thing, it's a little bit more compliant than you might think, even though it has really low profile tires and a very stiff suspension. It's a little bit more European, and maybe that has something to do with the fact that it's assembled in Swindon, England. That's right, they don't build them here and they don't build them in Japan. Now technically this is the baby of the group, but it really isn't a baby. Under the hood of the Civic Type-R is a 306 horsepower 4-cylinder turbocharged engine that puts out 295 pound-feet of torque. That's a lot of torque for a Honda engine, especially one with such small displacement. It has a 6-speed manual transmission. That's the only way it comes, which is awesome because only real drivers should apply. That's right. Granted, it has a limited slip front diff because it's a front-wheel drive car and it's a lot of power to handle. But the good news is a car like this actually puts to shame a lot of all-wheel drive and rear drive biased vehicles on the track. But how does it handle on the road? This is the sweet stuff. This is where the sweeping corners become tighter and tighter as we go in through the Rockies. And that's where this car comes alive. Having a manual transmission, being able to drop it down and shift as you're going through the corners, oh my God, that's a treat. It's one of the reasons why I love manual transmissions, right? And the cool thing is, you can sit in almost any gear. This thing will let you go up to redline all day long. Now, this is part of an event which is called the Redline Rally. And what they do is they bring in all these other cars to go through these mountains. So I get to go back to back with other vehicles. Specifically, I'm doing it right now with the Nsx and the Supra. And I can tell you this, because this has that limited slip front diff, because it has the manual transmission, and because I actually fit in it, with the exception of this seat, which is like a baseball mitt gripping me, it is definitely the most comfortable of the cars. It's the most practical of the cars. And in many ways, it's a lot of fun. God, what a fun car. And guys, seriously, this is some of the best driving roads in America. I highly recommend it. Now let's say you want to go a little bit more extreme. There's one thing you have to do, and it's down here. You go from one mode, which is comfort, to sport, and then one more to R mode. You go to R mode, everything sharpens. Everything improves. On the road, going over a couple expansion joints and going through some potholes, this car's been very compliant. If you want a smoother driving version of this vehicle, the SI is the way to go. Granted, you're not going to get the crazy horsepower. And you know what else you're not going to get? The wings. This car is like the Batmobile. It's got more wings than most aircraft. Some of you guys are going to be hot on that, and some of you are going to be cold on it. I don't really think they're that necessary, to be honest with you. And everybody knows who you are when you drive past them. with that being said, you can drive past a lot of people. This thing is ridiculously powerful and extremely capable. So yes, so far on the highway, not too bad. But it's where the curves kick in that this car becomes awesome. All right, not every Acura Nsx comes like this. These stickers are for a purpose. We actually got this car 2 weeks before the Pikes Peak International Hill Climb for 2019. This is the pace car. Yeah, so I get to drive the pace car. And the cool thing about that is that this vehicle has a lot of updates that I'm going to be telling you about as I drive. I do have paddle shifters, which are awesome around corners. And if you want to have a little bit of fun and open it up, sorry cameraman, it will definitely kick out the back. Now I'm on the $1 Million Highway, which is near Ore, Colorado. The drop-offs here are about 1,000 feet or more, so probably not a good idea to get too crazy behind the wheel. But yeah, this is it's an interesting way to test the car. I've now driven one of these in seriously snowy and icing conditions on a desert, on a highway, on some great back roads, and now on a really wet and rainy road. So I can honestly say I've driven an Nsx in almost every condition out there. Ready? Listen. It's a Banshee scream. For any of you who thought for a moment that this thing didn't sound like a badass super sports car, you are wrong. Now I bet you're asking about the Nissan GT-R and of course the Nissan Z. And they're great cars, but they're really old and we've done them before, nothing new. This is different. The Acura Nsx is fairly new, and then on top of that for 2019, amongst all the other new things that it has, new suspension setup and new tires. And then on top of that, this kind of obnoxious but kind of cool new orange color. The cool part is it has 3 electric motors and a twin turbocharged V6. You combine all that power together, you get 573 horsepower. By the way, in the future, they're predicting a much higher horsepower count out of a sportier version of this vehicle, which I can't wait for. The cool thing is the electric motors, 2 of them power the front wheels, 1 of them assists the engine in the rear, and it has a 9-speed twin clutch transmission. We're now in a heavy snowfall. So this is unexpected, but that's okay. We have all-wheel drive, we have heated seats, and we're in an extremely powerful sports car that costs over $100,000. The good news is, so far the car hasn't had any issues going around corners. There's been a little bit of caked snow and some ice here and there. No problems at all. The overall feel of the vehicle is just as good as it always is. I said it before and I'll say it again. Even in these conditions, the Nsx almost has an analog feel to it. It doesn't feel as crazy digital as it perhaps is. So even though you are disconnected in many ways, and you have all of these electric devices assisting you in driving the car, it really does feel like a very solid sports car. I didn't think much of the Toyota Supra when I first heard about it, when Roman first drove it, because I thought, well, basically it's a Z4. But in these hills, I have an opportunity to drive the vehicle for real and tell you how it feels seat of the pants. And what better place in the Rocky Mountains? First time really driving the Supra, and it started raining, like immediately. So we're doing a little bit of performance driving in the Supra in the rain. Yeah, that's great. Could be worse. Hey, it's handling pretty good so far. Tire grip is pretty good. Sound is incredible. Check this out. I don't know if you can hear this. Ready? Oh, that sounds really good. And it's cool because it crackles and pops and snarls. It definitely has a different personality than the Z4, which is a little bit more refined feeling. This one definitely feels a little bit more visceral. That is a 335 horsepower straight six directly out of the BMW Z4. Puts out 365 pound-feet of torque, and it's hooked up to an 8-speed automatic transmission. It's a twin scroll turbocharged engine. And, you know, I've been barking about this engine saying it's a German engine in a Japanese car. You know what? That's not necessarily a bad thing. When you're on these roads and you want this type of power feeding the rear wheels, why not? So far, the handling has been really impressive even in the rain. I'm a little bummed that we have to kind of slow up a little bit through the corners, but the grip has still been fairly tenacious, and I can accelerate out of a corner effortlessly. Yes, I would much rather have a manual transmission than manual little paddle here, but they're instant. I mean, listen to this. Around corners, instant. This car jumps into it, hunkers down immediately. You can feel the rear end engaging as you're going through the corner. The grip, as I said, is really impressive. It's definitely not an all-wheel drive car, though. I am a little hesitant to really push it really hard around a corner, especially with having cliffs all around us. But with that being said, and the fact that we're driving right behind an Acura Nsx and we're keeping up with them, yeah, I'm kind of impressed. All right, guys, this is the time I was kind of regretting getting in and out of each car. I wanted to demonstrate something that's kind of important. And look, I'm 6'1", and I'm a big guy. So if you're a big guy and you want to own these cars, understand this. They require a little bit of sacrifice to get in and out of. Example. Okay. And the seat is all the way down. Now the good news with the Acura is once you're inside, well, there's no real good news. Once you're inside, your head is pretty high up and you really have to lean the seat back, which some people really don't like sitting really far back, but that's the only way to really get enough headroom to be comfortable. Now, once you're in it and once you're seated, the seats are very comfortable. The layout is very simple. It's really easy to start the vehicle. It sounds pretty cool. Unfortunately, once you're done golfing or buying up property, you gotta get out. Now, this requires a little bit of effort. Boy, that's a pain. Okay. This is why a lot of big guys buy trucks. Let's move on to the Supra. Now, the Supra has a little bit more space, but I discovered something. It's not a Z4. Z4s are convertibles. And the one we had at the office, I was able to get in and out of really easy with the top down. This top stays up, but it has a lot more space than the NSX. Check this out. Yeah, it's not too bad. Now, when you're adjusting the seat, it does make some groaning noises, I found out. Probably because of my massive weight. Once again, the good news is it's a relatively comfortable position. However, let's start it up. Yeah, that's not bad. But there is a problem. This roof line, see where my head is? Yep. If I look over to my left, it's really hard to see. If I try to look out the back, not that easy to see either. The way the roof slants back makes it difficult for outward vision. It's a sports car, right? Let me show you the Honda. All right. Now, the cool thing about the Honda is that it is a practical hatchback. It's a daily driver. It does have very tight seats. Let me show you. Other than having way too much garnish on the back and all these wings and everything, it has seats that Roman and I both agree are a little much for big people. Let me show you. Look at that seat. See the bolster on the seats? Yep. That reminds my kidneys that they're there. But it's easy to get in and out of. Just like a regular Honda Civic. You kind of have to go up and over the bolsters though. And you're gonna feel them in your back. But once you're in, it's easy to see out of. It's easy to get comfortable in. The overall interior layout is very easy, very simple. And once again, it's an easy car to get in and out of. Look at this! No problems. It has been an awesome time driving in the mountains with these cars. Oh my God, it's like Disneyland. But this is what I came away with. When it comes to the NSX, despite all of that technology, it still is a driver's car, and it doesn't feel as computerized as I thought it would. Every time I've driven one, it's felt more analog than I expected, and that's huge. It's a rewarding, very fast car that is a little too tight for me. I gotta be honest with you. The Supra was really surprising. It's an amazing driver's car, and on the long roads and around these switchbacks, it is phenomenal. It's sort of a return to the old school sports car, and that is incredible. But you know what's best? I really like this Civic Type-R because it's an affordable sports car that you can drive every day and it's comfortable. Bottom line, it did great in the Rockies, and it has a manual transmission, which neither of these other two have an option for. What a great car. What great cars. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this quick and fun look at some of the best driving cars Japan has to offer in the United States. Let us know what you think down below. For the Fast Lane Car, this is Nathan. I'll see you next time.